For more videos, press the subscribe button and also turn on the bell notification to receive the updates directly in your device. Hello friends, I Vikas Nehra welcome you all to our Nehra Classes YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we will talk about the file systems and mounting in Linux. In our previous tutorial, we have learned how can we create the partitions on the raw disks and how can we use them. In order to use a partition, it is mandatory that we create the file system on it, and after that we mount the directory over there so that the system can understand how to retrieve and copy the data on the partition with the help of directory. So in this session, we will first talk about the file system types and how can we create or manage them, and after that we will discuss how can we mount the directories over there, what are the different options. So we will go in detail. So let's start the session with the file system. A file system is a way of organizing files on your partition. Besides file-based storage, file systems usually include directories and access control and contain the metadata information about files like access time, modification time, and file ownership. The properties such as length, character, set, etc. of the file names are determined by the file system you choose. Directories are usually implemented as files. You will have to learn how this is implemented. Access control in file system is tracked by user ownership and group owner and membership in combination with one or more access control lists. So if you will open the help manual of the file system by executing man fs command, you can find the details about the file system. Here in Linux, you can create ext, ext2, ext3, ext4, hpfs, etc. file systems as per the requirement. So you can go through the manual at your own. You can read the description. You can go through the options that are mentioned there. Now, let me show you what are the file systems that we can actually use. The Linux kernel will inform you about currently loaded file system drivers in /proc file systems file. So if you will open the /proc /file system file by using the cat command, you can go through the details of these. So this will show you all the details about the file systems. Here you can ignore no dev. So there you can use the grep-v. So it will exclude no dev from this output and it will only show you the available file systems. So these are the currently loaded file systems that we can use, that are ext2, ext3, ext4 and xfs. The /etc/file systems file contains a list of auto-detected file systems in case the mount command is used without the option -t. Nowadays, we generally do not mention the type of the file system while executing the mount command. So generally, we do not use this option. So that is auto-detected. And how do the system auto-detect it? It detects by this file that is there in /etc directory with the name as file systems. If you will open this file by running the cat command, you can see the details. Help for this file is provided by the man mount command. If you will execute man mount command, it will show you the help manual of the mount command, and here you can see the details about this mount command. The commonly used file systems are ext2, ext3, ext4 and xfs. So first I will talk about the ext2 and ext3. That is the second extended file system. A disadvantage is that the file system checks on ext2 takes a long time. So if you will execute the fsck command, it takes a long time in checking the file system. And ext2 was being replaced by ext3 on most Linux machines. They are essentially the same except for the journaling, which is only present in ext3. In case of ext2, there is no journaling feature, while in ext3, journaling feature is present. Journaling means that changes are first written to a journal on the disk. The journal is flushed regularly, writing the changes on the file system. Journaling keeps the file system in a consistent state, so you don't need a file system check after an unclean shutdown or power failure. Now the question arises, how can we create the ext2 or ext3 file system? So let me show you. I have an additional disk present in my machine that is showing up here as SDC. So in this disk, I'm going to create a partition here by using the fdisk utility. fdisk/dev/sdc. Here I will create a partition, and for new, P for primary, partition number 1. Default size, I want to create a partition of 1 GB, so I will mention here plus 1G, and after that I will save these changes. Now the partition has been created. I will execute the partprobe command so that the kernel can read these changes which I made. And now, since I want to use this partition, so I will first format it before mounting some directory over there. So in case if I want to format it in ext2 file system, I can use mkfs.ext2 command, because this is the universal command which we use to create different file systems. mkfs dot, and after that we can mention the file system type, either ext2, ext3, ext4 or xfs. But there is one more command which we have been using from a long time, that is mke2fs. This command is used to create the ext2 file system on any partition. After that we can mention the partition name, that is SDC1 here. So we have successfully created the file system there on the partition. Now we can execute the blkid command for the same to see the details of the file system type. So here I will mention blkid/dev/sdc1, and here it is showing up as ext2. And why it is showing up as ext2? Because we have used the mke2fs command to create this ext2 file system on this partition. Suppose we need to create the ext3 file system. So let me create one more partition on the same disk, that is /dev/sdc here, and for new, P for primary, partition number 2, default size, and here I will create a partition of 2 GB, and after that I will save the changes. I will again execute the partprobe command, and I will execute lsblk to see the details. Now I have created one more partition here which I'm going to format as ext3. So if we want to create the ext3 file system, we can execute mkfs.ext3 command. It will create the ext3 file system on the disk, on the partition. But we can also use mke2fs command here. After that we can mention -j for journaling, and after that we can specify the partition name, that is /dev/sdc2. So this command will create the ext3 file system on the partition. Now if I will execute the blkid command for this, it will show up as ext3. You can have a look at this. Or we can verify the same by running lsblk-f. So here also ext3 is clearly mentioned against this partition. As you know that ext2 does not support journaling, and in case if we want to convert ext2 into ext3, so for that we can execute tune to fs command. Let me show you. Let me execute the blkid command for the ext2 type file system, that is /dev/sdc1, and here it is showing up as ext2. Now I'm going to convert it into ext3. So here I can execute tune to fs -j for journaling, and after that I can mention the name of this partition. So it will create the general and it will convert into ext3 now. You can have a look at this. Now the type is showing up as ext3, or we can execute the lsblk-f command. So here also it is showing up as ext3. So in this way we can convert ext2 into ext3 very easily. You can mount an ext3 file system as ext2, but then you will lose the generaling feature. So if you are using ext3, it can be used as ext3 as well as ext2. Do not forget to run mkinit-rd command if you are booting from this device. Now we will talk about the ext4 type file system. The newest incarnation of ext file system is named as ext4 and is available in Linux kernel since 2008. ext4 supports larger files up to 16 terabyte and larger file systems than ext3, and many more features are already present there. Development started by making ext3 fully capable for 64-bit operating system. When it turned out the changes were significant and the developers decided to rename it as ext4. And we can easily create it by running mkfs.ext4 command, and after that we can mention the name of the partition like this. So this will create the ext4 file system. Now we will talk about the XFS file system. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 will have XFS as the default file system. This is highly scalable, high performance file system. XFS was created by IRIX, and for a couple of years it was also used in FreeBSD. It is supported by Linux kernel but rarely used in distributions outside of Red Hat or CentOS. And we can create it by running mkfs.xfs, and after that we can mention the name of the partition like this. There is one more thing: you cannot reduce the XFS file systems. So always keep in mind that it can not be reduced. You can only grow it. So there is grow fs_xfs command whenever you want to make some changes there in the file system. The next file system is vfat, which is rarely used in Linux. The vfat file system exists in a couple of formats like FAT12 for floppy disks. Let me mention here. For floppy disks, it is there as FAT12 and FAT16 as MS-DOS and FAT32 for the larger files. So this is supported on Windows, but we can also use it in Linux. The Linux vfat implementation supports all of these. So if we will use vfat here on Linux, it will support all these file systems and are used a lot for digital cameras, USB sticks, and to exchange data between the different operating systems. Now we will talk about the next type of file system, that is ISO 9660. ISO 9660 is the standard format for CD-ROMs. Changes are you will encounter this file system also on your hard disk in form of images of the CD-ROM, often with the extension as .iso. The ISO 9660 standard limits file name to the 8.3 format. The Unix word did not take this and thus added the Rock Ridge extension, which allows for the file names up to 255 characters and Unix style file modes, ownership, and symbolic links. Another extension to this ISO 9660 is Joliet. What do we call it? Joliet, which adds 64 Unicode characters to the file name. Now we will talk about the next file system, which is UDF. Most optical media today, including CD and DVD, uses UDF, the universal disk format. The next one is the swap. All things considered swap, not a file system. But to use a partition as swap, it must be formatted and mounted as swap space. So swap, we call it as swap space, not the file system. The next one is the GFS. Linux clusters often use a dedicated cluster file system like GFS or GFS2 or the cluster file system. And there are many more. The /proc/file systems file displays a list of supported file systems there. When you mount a file system explicitly defining one, then mount will try to probe /etc/file systems and then probe /proc/file systems for all the file systems without the no dev label. If /etc/file systems end with a line containing only the asterisk, then both files are probed. Now, how can you put a file system on a partition? So as I shown you, we generally use mkfs command, but there are many more which you can use. If you want to list the commands, you can execute ls-l/sbin, and there you can mention mk*. It will display all the commands which we can use to put a file system on a partition, like mk2fs, mkfs, mkfs.ext2, ext3, ext4, fat. So all these commands we can use to put a file system on a partition. Now, how can we tune a file system? You can use tune to fs command for that. You can use tune to fs to list and set file system settings. Let me show you. If you will execute tune to fs-l and the partition name, and then you grab their block count, it will show you the block count and reversed block count details. This output lists the reverse space for the /dev/sdc1, which is set at 5%. And if you want to change the value of this percentage, you can again execute tune to fs command, tune to fs -m, and suppose I want to make it 10%, so I will write here m10, and after that I can mention the name, that is /dev/sdc1, and press enter. So it has been set to 10% now, and if I will again execute the same command and I will grab the block count here, then it will show the result as 10%. So in this way we can tune a file system. In order to check a file system, we can execute the fsck command. I have already created an in-depth tutorial on this. You can watch that video. I will provide you the link in the I button as well as in the description. There are different commands which we can execute to check the file system. Let me show you. Let me mention here ls-l/sbin *fsck*. So these are the commands which we can use to check different file systems. The last column in the /etc/fstab file is used to determine whether a file system should be checked or not. So here you can find the details whether it should be checked or not. The last column here in this file, this value, this sixth field actually, this sixth field in this file specifies the order in which fsck checks the device or the partition for the errors at the boot time. A 0 means that fsck should not check a file system. Higher number represents the check order. The root partition should have a value of 1, and all other that need to be checked should have a value of 2. So if you don't want that it should check, you can mention 0 here, and if you want that it should be checked at the time of booting, you can mention 2 there for the non-root file systems, and for the root you can mention 1. While the fifth entry here, it is for the dump or the backup operation. The fifth field here in this file, if 1 is there, the dump utility should back up the partition, or if 0 is there, then it should not. If you never use the dump backup program, you can ignore this option in the /etc/fstep file. Now I will request you to go through the practice exercise given in the same PDF on page number 64. You can try that particular exercise at your own, and if you face any challenges, you can go through the solutions provided on the next page. Now we will talk about the mounting. Once you have put a file system on a partition, you can mount it. Mounting a file system makes it available for use, usually such as a directory. We say mounting a file system instead of mounting a partition because we will see later that we can also mount the file system that do not exist on the partition. On all Unix systems, every file and every directory is a part of one big file tree. To access a file, you need to know the full path string from the root directory. When adding a file system to your computer, you need to make it available somewhere in the file tree, and the directory where you make a file system available is called the mount point. Now the question arises, why we need the mounting? Let me show you. Suppose we have a partition. Let me show you the output of lsblk command. Suppose I want to use this SDC1 partition to store the data. So how can I do that? First of all, I will have to format this file system, because if I will not format it, it cannot organize the files there. So the first step is to format the file system, and after that let the system know which directory I am going to use to save the data on that particular partition or to retrieve the data from. So which path I'm going to use? Suppose I want to use /mnt to keep the data there in this partition. In that case, I will mount the /mnt on this partition. So mounting is required whenever we try to copy the data on the partition or to retrieve the data from. Now let me show you how can we mount a directory on the partition. Let me create a directory as testdir on the root, and after that I'm going to mount it on /dev/sdc1. So I can mention mount /dev/sdc1, that is the partition name, and after that I can mention the name of the directory which I'm going to mount. So it will automatically detect and mount the directory on this file system or on this partition, because it will auto detect the type of file system by using this file that is there in /etc/file systems. And here ext3 is already mentioned there, and we know that this has been formatted as ext3, so it will automatically mount it. Or we can also specify the type while mounting the directory over there. So let me first unmount the testdir. Now how can we do that? If we need to define the type of the file system, we can use the mount command, mount-t, and after that we can mention the type like ext3, and after that we can mention the path of the partition and then the mount point name or the mount point path, that is testdir. And when /etc/file systems does not exist or ends with a single asterisk on the last line, then mount command will read the /proc/file systems file. So either it can use /etc/file systems or it will use /proc/file systems file to detect the type of the file system while mounting it. And as I have shown you, if you want to unmount, you can use umount command, and after that you can mention the mount point name, that is testdir. So it will unmount. To display all the mounted file systems, you can issue mount command, or you can look for /proc/mounts or /etc mtab file. Let me show you. If you will open /proc/mounts command, it will show you the mounted file systems in this system. You can have a look at this, or you can see these details by opening the /etc/mtab file. It will also show you the same details. These are the currently mounted file systems in the system. Or you can execute the mount command. It will also show you the same details. You can use the mount command and there you can grab the file system. Suppose I want to list the root there, root file system, I can mention root and it will show us the details. If I talk about the /proc/mounts file, the kernel provides the info in the /proc/mounts file, but /proc/mounts does not exist as a file on any hard disk. Looking at /proc/mounts is looking at the information that comes directly from the kernel. So it is not there in form of a file. This information we are directly getting from the kernel. If I talk about the /etc/mtab file, the /etc/mtab file is not updated by the kernel, but it is maintained by the mount command. And please do not edit /etc/mtab file manually. Now I will talk about the df command. Df is the disk free command. A more user friendly way to look at the mounted file system is df. The df or the disk free command has the added benefits of showing you the free space on each mounted disk. Like a lot of Linux commands, df supports option -h to show you the output in the human readable format. If you will only execute the df command, it will show you the details of the currently mounted file systems. And it not only shows the file systems, but it shows the blocks, the available space, the used space, the percentage used space, and the mount points. And if you want to see this in the human readable format, you can execute df-h command. This time it will show you the size in the human readable format, like in MB, GB, and KB. And if you want to see the type also, you can execute df-ht. And this time it will show you the type of the file system as well. Now, let's proceed further. The next command is the du command. The du command can summarize disk uses for the files and the directories. By using du on a mount point, you effectively get the disk space used on a file system. While du can go display each subdirectory recursively, and option and -s option will give you a total summary of the parent directory. Suppose I want to see the total amount of space used by the /boot file system, I can execute du-sh/boot command. So it will show us the result. Now we will talk about the permanent mounts. As you know that I have already told you many times that we use /etc/fstab file for the permanent mounting. If you will open this file, you will find different entries in this file. The file system table, fstab is called the file system table, located in the /etc/fstab, contains a list of the file systems with an option to automatically mount each of them at the boot time. The first entry here shows the device. The second entry shows the mount point. The third entry shows the file system type. The fourth one shows the options like defaults, no ACL, no exec, whatever we want. And the next one, the fifth one here, it shows the backup operation, and the last one is there for the file system check order. So this is the disk or the partition name. This is the mount point. This is the type of the file system. The next one are the options which we want to use. The next one is the backup operation, whether we want to dump the data or not. And the last one is for the file system check order. If we need the file system check, we can mention here 1 for the root, and for the other file systems we can mention 2. While if we do not want to use the file system check at the time of booting, we can mention 0 here. And in case of the data dump, that is the fifth entry here, this field can have either 0 or 1. If you want to dump the data, or if you want to use the dump utility to back up a partition, you can mention 1 here, or if you do not want that, you can mention 0. And in case if you want to mount something permanently, you should make an entry in the fstep file. Suppose I want to mount /test_dir directory there on /dev/sdc1. So I will execute mount /dev/sdc1/test_dir command. So this will mount the file system, and we can verify the same by running the df-h command. It will show the entry here for the mount point. And if we want to make this permanent, we can open the /etc/fstep file in vi editor, and there we will go at the last line, and here we can make an entry for this partition. I will write here /dev/sdc1. After that, we can mention the mount point, that is /test_dir. After that, we can specify the type, that is ext3. Then for the option, we can mention here defaults, and I don't want to dump the data, I can mention 0, and I don't want to check the file system at the time of booting, so I will mention 0 again, and I will save this file. So what will happen if our machine will reboot? It will automatically mount this file system. Let me show you. Let me unmount this /test_dir, and let me show you the output of df-h. It is not mounted. If I will execute the mount-a command, it will automatically mount all the file systems that are there in the /etc/fstep file. Or we can mention the mount point name which we want to mount after the mount command. This will also mount the file system. Let me show you. It is mounted. And let me umount this again, and let me execute the mount-a command. So it will mount it again. Have a look at this. That means the entry which we have made in the file is correct. And instead of the name of the device, we can mention the UUID of the file system there. Now, how can you secure the mounts? File systems can be secured with several mount options. Let me show you. So we are going to discuss the options which we can use in the /etc/fstep file. So instead of this defaults, either we can mention RO for read only, we can mention no exec if we do not want to execute the binaries there on the file system. We can mention no SUID, we can mention there no ACL, and many more like group quota, user quota. So these options we can clearly specify in this /etc/fstep file, and we can manually do that as well. How can we do that? Let me show you. Let me umount this /test_dir, and let me comment this entry in the fstep file also. Suppose we want to mount the file system as read only. So for that we can execute mount-t command. After that we can specify the type, that is ext3, and then we can mention the option. So I will mention here -o for the option, and I will write here RO for the read only, and then /dev/sdc1, that is the device name, and the mount point name, that is /test_dir. So this will be mounted as read only. You can have a look at this. It is mounted, and if we need to know, if we need to check, we can execute cat etc mtab command, and there we can grab SDC1. Have a look at this. So it is mounted as read only. If we will go to this /test_dir directory and if you will try to create a file there, it won't allow you. It will say that the file system is read only. So in this way we can mount a file system as read only. In the same way we can specify no exec. The no exec option will prevent the execution of the binary and the scripts on the mounted file system. It is already mounted, so first unmount this. Let me come out and let me again execute the umount command. So it is unmounted, and now if I want to enable the option as no exec, so I can execute this command, and let me grep the SDC in the output of /etc/mtab command, and here no exec is clearly mentioned there. Now let me go to the test dir and let me create a script file here, and let me mention the cal command there in this file, and let me try to execute this file after setting the execute permission. So it is saying permission denied, and why it is showing us the result as permission denied? Because we have clearly mentioned the option no exec. In the same way we can mention no suid here. The no suid option will ignore the set uid bit binaries on the mounted file system, or we can mention there no ACL if we do not want to use the ACL. To prevent cluttering permissions with ACL, we can enable this no ACL option, and we can define multiple options there in the mount command. Let me show you. Let me first come out and umount the partition, umount the file system. Let me show you how can we define the multiple options in the mount command. We can mention here ro comma no exec comma no ACL. So in this way we can define the options. Let me show you in the output of cat /etc/mtab. So these options have been enabled, and if we want to make these options permanent, we can copy these options and paste there in the /etc/fstab file. Instead of defaults, we can clearly mention there ro no exec or anything, whatever we want. Now how can you mount the remote file systems like SMB or CIFS? For that you can execute the mount command, mount -t for the type. There you will mention CIFS, then -o for the options, and there you can mention user, and user is equal to, you can mention the name of the user after that, like this, like Vikas Nehra, and then / the IP address, like this, and the name of the share and the name of the mount point which you want to mount. So in this way you can mount the remote file systems. If you want to use NFS, if you want to mount NFS file system, you can use mount -t NFS command, and there you can mention the IP address or the host name of the server, like this, and the mount point location or the mount point path. So guys, that's it from my side for today's session. Now you can go through the practice exercise given on page number 74, and you can also go through the solutions provided on page number 75 on the same PDF. So guys, that's it from my side for today's session of file systems and mounting in Linux. Hope you will find this session useful for you. If you like it, then do share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are new on our channel, then please subscribe us and turn on the bell notification. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye. Jai Hind. Vande Matram. Take care.